Hey guys. um, Without much preparation, just wanted to talk quickly about something that I've been thinking about a little. Just to think out loud, see what happens. So, there seems to be this problem that, at the very least, I have, and that I think probably generalizes to a bigger portion of our society. And it's that, how do I explain that? So it's a very very personal problem in the sense that it affects me very strongly. Um, so I'm looking. I'm trying to understand it and figure out how I can deal with that, and also how we as a society deal with that. So um, the gist of it is that it's kind of hard to start putting words to it because they all don't feel quite right. Something like, oops. And I'm not sure if I should be live recording these, if I should be editing. Yeah. Doesn't feel good to think about that. I think for now I keep getting into these meta discussions with myself when I stream or record something, just thinking out loud about how I want to do it, what this represents for me, and how I feel. It's probably annoying as hell to watch, but I guess I don't really care. Like, anyone who's interested enough, curious enough, they can watch and skip and watch later and stuff like that, and just watch faster. But I guess I do need time to really reflect and consider, and because something I really don't like is like being guided by the or pressured by the uncomfortable silence, or something not being quite perfect if you don't, fill the space now with words. I don't like that. I'd rather just be silent, be quiet, and contemplate and a little more, and then have the words be more meaningful or exactly on target, so to speak. Okay, so I'll just try and lay it out. Perhaps the broad question for me is, how do we as a society allocate human resources, but not in the sense of how many people do we want to be working on this thing versus that thing versus that thing, but more like from a skills and abilities and interests matched with what's necessary in some given context, like in some particular project, organization, or team, or whatever. Like, how do we match up the people who have certain specific talents and abilities and strong interests and passions? How do we match them up with like places where these things need to be applied? And the fundamentally where this question comes from right now is that so I have this experience of not fitting in anywhere, in terms of, for example, job titles, companies, job descriptions, um, often also just roles, then longer term in specific companies or environments or organizations. And right now, I have basically the experience that, so I am quite capable in certain respects, in certain ways, but I'm also very different from, I mean, at least at the surface level, it looks like I am very different from everyone else. And to some whatever degree that's true, and to some degree that's just a perception of me perceiving the fullness of myself, and being able to match myself against, I don't know, like, job descriptions, job titles, organizations as they present themselves. I mean, I'm basically I'm looking for work at the moment, or yeah, I have to earn some money, and sometimes, yeah, sometimes I don't really want to, but at the end of the day, I kind of do want to. Yeah, because I mean, I want to do something meaningful. I want to do something interesting. So, and to, you know, yeah, earn some money with that is, of course, ideal. Um, and just nothing that I look at, whether it's projects, whether it's, I don't know, companies I could maybe try and get hired into or something like that. That just, I mean, none of that feels right. I can't even find projects on on a specific project site that usually I can find work on. Like, it feels like there's nothing that matches who I actually am. And I could apply to things, but even before I would do so, I already feel that this is not really the right decision. And then what I see is like these things that people put out, and of course all of this information is going through their minds, and they're writing up, okay, we want a person like this, and the job title is going to be this, or the project is about this, and all of that information is filtered through the mind of the person writing it, and perhaps there are multiple people involved writing these things together, as often is the case, and like, usually my experience has been, yeah, so people put up some kind of brief there, and they think they know what they need, or they've defined something, but what they actually need in that given situation is something fairly different as well. um, though, I mean, that's also, and I'm trying to make sense of all of this basically as I'm thinking about this, because so little of that makes sense to me. Like the whole, and I guess this is in the end what I mean, or this is, let's say, at least a significant part of what I mean when I'm talking about like society level resource allocation, human resource, human minds and attention allocation, and skills allocation. Like this whole hiring, jobs, and how do people and organizations and projects and things we want to accomplish come together? How do we put all of those together? How does that work? And so little of that makes sense to me. It's insane. It just doesn't, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's stupid, the whole system. Like, there are probably a few things that are okay, that, but like from the hiring process, and even before that, this situation where people just put all kinds of stuff through their minds and try and formulate, we need exactly this thing and exactly that thing. You don't really know what exactly you need, and many organizations don't even have strong enough, like, missions, or just a strong don't have a strong enough vision of what they want to accomplish, for example. And then, like, if your intention isn't clear enough, if the end goal you're trying to achieve, if the end, begin with the end in mind, if the end you want to accomplish is not clear enough, and you don't actually have a lot of positive energy behind that, then everything you do downstream from that is not really going to be very effective. Like the process is already broken at the first step. And so as I'm saying this, I'm just wondering, am I being extremely negative again? Like, because I at the moment I see a lot more negative stuff than positive just in general, I feel like. Am I just doing more of that at the moment? Because I'm not really interested in perpetuating or, adding more energy to negative things. Not really interested. What I'm interested in, what my intention is to just learn what I can learn from these systems that I've seen and witnessed and experienced, and then be clear about what I want, and then see what I can do with that, or just where that takes me then. And I also feel like there's a society level problem here that's not really solved, and for some reason, and I don't even know what the solution might look like. Maybe I don't know in full what the problem looks like, though probably like internally below the conscious layer I probably do. So one thing I observe is that there is a high rigidity in all of these structures, in the especially, I mean, when you get hired as an employee, and people build companies and they make contracts with employees, and they're kind of rigid in the sense that you need to stay roughly where you are for longer periods of time. And I don't know, like, there are these substructures where you have these responsibilities now, and you like, just is that just the minds? And I mean, I haven't been part of these kinds of structures since a very long time, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really want to get hired properly into organizations, and I don't. And I kind of found my ways of avoiding being locked down into such structures in organizations. So as some kind of independent contractor, I just keep that freedom for myself. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's rigidity like everywhere. Yeah, and I don't even know if I want to go, if it helps me to dive deeper into all of that stuff, because yeah, yeah, like, without trying to judge it too much. Am I judging it? I feel like it's just so non-functional in many ways. And the question is, kind of the question I have on my mind is, so is there a better way of, so is there first off, do we have some kind of solution to, so for example, I have certain skills um, that I've developed that are valuable, that I apply at home and in some context, social contexts that I'm part of naturally, and it's very beneficial for everyone involved. But like, there are no job descriptions that include those things or that focus on those things in some ways. and I can't be the only person who is just atypical in that sense, or who has more issues than most other people with even attempting to fit into some kind of box, or acting as if I do fit in some kind of box, and then applying somewhere, and then, you know, like, what's up with all of those people? Like, do they find whatever we want to call these things, like jobs, or do they find places to work at, roles and structures that suit them, that really speak to their strengths, or where they can work from their strengths and their interests and passions, really? Like, does that happen, like, by default, or are there ways in which this is happening and I'm not seeing it? I mean, I can see that there are some particular bigger organizations where, at least from, looking from the outside looking in, it seems like there is some of that, like, natural migration and transformation, and happening, where people are kind of more moving into the places, where the spots where they're needed most and where they can be most effective. But I mean, definitely in terms of, so companies that come to mind are probably something like Google, Tesla, maybe. Yeah, Tesla for sure. Not sure, like, I don't have enough insight on the other companies. I cannot judge that. But it also doesn't feel like this is the default even within those companies, but they seem to be big enough and have enough opportunity and diversity, like, within them, in terms of what they do, and what kinds of people they need and skills, and what kinds of things need to be moved here and there and everywhere, that this might be possible to move more fluidly through such an organization. But then, even if that is possible, like, I'm having trouble even with the idea of defining specifically a specific role or title for any given person. And then I feel like, I mean, I don't know if it's just me in that sense, or if most people are different. But even then, what about me, and what about other people like me, of which I'm sure there are plenty. I feel like I'm more like of a free electron. I just move around naturally, in my world, on various levels and layers. Just move around freely, and I can just feel where I need to go, and what I need to do, and who I am in this context, and who I can be, how I can help in this context. And it's all very natural and fluid for me, if I am allowed to do that, and encouraged, and yeah, if I'm invited to work in that way, and where I can, I arrange my life in such a way that I can do that. And I mean, we are all humans are a lot more flexible than I think most of our current structures invite us to be. So I don't think it's this problem is like, this is something that only I have or am experiencing. And so, yeah, just even the idea of, okay, yeah, you can assume some kind of role, or give yourself some kind of temporary title, but it like, from the perspective of being honest with ourselves, with everyone we meet, about who we are, about what we do, about how we actually function, how we actually work, how we succeed at things, we should not even give ourselves like any kind of too fixed a sort of title or job description or something. And I feel like this is something that Tesla is doing relatively well. They have a very clear mission that they've defined for themselves, and It feels like everyone's coming together to help bring that vision into reality. So then everyone just brings everything they've got, right, and just applies that, and there seems to be a lot more fluidity inside of that organization. Um, and the essence of that, I think, is much closer to the truth, really. Like, and I guess it can be like driven by some kind of mission or something that people really imagine together, where there's a lot of overlap in the vision that all of the people hold together. And I guess that is a requirement to effectively be able to come together and co-create together. But then from that point onwards, the reality is really that we are all highly dynamic. The environments we work in are highly dynamic. Um, we don't know each other well enough to be able to even to I mean, this is one more thing. People are usually told what they need to do, and we have these, job titles and descriptions, and kind of conceptualizing all kinds of things and trying to keep things kind of tidy or something. And people are kind of telling each other what to do, like, you should do this and you should do that, right? And it begins from the job description. It begins from, before someone is brought into the group to work on something together. This is already part of the definition of how we come together. So there is already rigidity in that. But the problem is, I don't know who you are. I don't know, like, if I'm hiring you, I don't know who you actually are. I don't know your proper strengths and everything. And it's impossible to actually properly assess that in any kind of hiring process. And even if you could do that perfectly at that given instance, even then, you're a highly dynamic person. You change. Your interests change. It could be, you could have these kinds of interests today, and then they might shift tomorrow. And if we evaluate you, or like employ you based on whatever was true yesterday, and tomorrow it changes, you're going to be unhappy, and the whole collaboration is going to be less effective. So and this is normal for people to experience, and it has reason, and it has a purpose that, for example, our interests change. This is something that guides us through our lives. And organizations should be built in such a way that they allow that, they encourage that, they want to draw that out of you. Like, they would want you to be fully honest, fully authentic, fully present, and feeling exactly what you're interested in, what you really want to do. And then so the one part is, I cannot properly and fully assess another person, and then they're dynamic, right? So I would have to assess all the time, over and over, and then I don't know what exactly I need. Actually, I even if I have some kind of problem and I want some other person to help me solve some portion of that problem, I don't usually nobody knows what the best solution truly is, or like there's a whole range of really good solutions, and also depending on exactly the people currently present and their ideas and everything, different solutions are just much more amenable, much more viable. So it doesn't even make sense to formulate some kind of solution that we're specifically looking for or something, but this needs to emerge in the moment, so to speak. If we really break it down, it needs to emerge in the moment from everyone who's present, so to speak, everyone who is focused on whatever portion of that. And I can't define that up front. And even if I could define that for some instance, for some project, for some snapshot of reality, tomorrow it's going to change. Something is going to shift. And if not tomorrow, I mean, this happens so often. So all of these static arrangements do not actually work. I mean, like, we can look out into society, and I mean, we see how they work, or like the degree to which they work. So many things, so many products or services or solutions just suck in so many different ways. And the people working on those things, being focused on those things, they are, you know, having a good or not so good time to whatever degree that this is actually happens to be working for them in this moment. And I mean, there are pockets where, you know, the one thing or the other thing is kind of working out for that person and that person. But just taking the big view on all of society, on all of, you know, everything we have created, everything we're building, the whole economy, not just of any particular country, but of the whole planet, it's not working that spectacularly well, I have to say. There are some companies who are doing very good job in terms of, you know, what we can perceive as a customer, as a user of certain products and services. But then we also don't have like the view on how happy are the people working on those things, working in those environments, and you know, how much of the time are they happy, um, you know, how well, yeah, is everything actually aligned with, because it's also not a great thing if, you know, a group of people working on some product, they produce an amazing product, but they kill themselves in the process, or they like really destroy their own inner resources, or like their own resourcefulness, so to speak, or yeah, like if they don't feel good doing that, that's also kind of not worth it in the long run, because I mean, it's going to create other problems. And what's the point of, I don't want to use something that someone has created while they were not happy, and it's always going to be inferior to, you know, something that has been created that's more or less the same, but the people who were working on that were joyful and happy and, you know, fulfilled, or whatever, like just in a purely positive state, and in a configuration that actually works. It's always going to be the superior product and the superior service. So yeah, I'm not even that interested in, you know, producing working products from not really working environments. Um, that also doesn't actually work. Um, and my question is, like, how do we fix that, or what's the solution? Or, and I mean, I'm as I'm speaking about this, I am like coming up with all of the solutions, right? And a lot of it, I guess, in the end, it comes down to taking a look at who people actually are, and just in general who we as humans actually are, like the core, let's say, values, or the maybe our core, it's a good word, attributes, no, like what's the basis of being human. And there are certain things that are absolutely at the basis of that, things like freedom, joy, love, um, we are at our core pure positive energy. We don't need anyone to tell us what to do. We have intuition, we have a sense of self, we have guidance, you know, coming from all kinds of places. We have, you know, good judgment when we are really in tune with ourselves, and feeling great. We don't really need anything external, like to, yeah, like to tell us what to do, or tell us how to organize, or I don't know, tell us what's the solution. But we, yeah, creativity, right, is another one. Um, um, and then there needs to be trust between people working together, or, you know, engaging in any sort of way. But also trust comes from within. It comes from a trust in myself, being in alignment with myself. Then I have a sense of whatever the thing or the person I'm interacting with in front of me is, who they are to me, what the relationship is. I can feel that, I can sense that. This is where my trust comes from. It comes from trusting my own assessment of whatever situation I am in, and then yeah, things like that. So at the core, it's very, very simple. But humans are making this very, very complicated. Like building all of these, you have to join a company and there's so many things attached to that, and it takes time to get in and time to get out, and you might be stuck in there, and there are all kinds of structures, rigid structures that don't really support and empower. They don't really they're not created from a place of empowering humans, of really truly knowing what human is, and then allowing structures to form, pure positive structures to form. This is what would need to be done, really just being present with what being human means, what human being means, and then from there just, coming together and allowing structure to form to whatever degree it needs to form to accomplish whatever those humans want to accomplish together. And it seems so simple, and I guess that in the end, there's going to be some point in our future, in the evolution of our consciousness, where every single human being is going to be so in tune with themselves that we will not actually need any like helper structures that direct people, that like on-ramp people onto this pure positive way of working together. At some point that's going to be the case, so it just naturally flows perfectly, and we don't need structures. But I mean, that's a situation or a future where money is not really a thing, probably, but there's full abundance, pure, complete abundance in everything. So you can just, you just get whatever you need from wherever you need it, whenever you need it, and you don't really have to pay for anything, because I mean, it's probably going to coincide with things like, absolutely abundant energy sources, like, I don't know, fusion, or I don't know, some kind of antimatter, matter reactions, or things that we haven't even encountered yet, stuff like that. And then also, all of the manufacturing technologies, and I don't know what our consciousness is actually capable of creating, for which, like, the technology of our bodies, what else we can make with that. So that would be a basically completely abundant utopia from our current perspective. And then, of course, you don't need tools and structures to organize people, but it's just flowing. Everyone is so in tune with themselves that they know exactly where to go. Maybe kind of like the image that comes to mind is like an ant colony. They don't have like smartphones to direct them where they need to go, or where there's an opportunity for them or something, but they just, they are, from my perspective, so in tune with themselves, and performing whatever necessary communication through the technology of their own, bodies and whatever else. Like, perhaps it's really just one mind that they're all tuned into, and there's no need for any kind of like remote communication or something, but they're just so in tune with all of that, and with the whole colony, that it doesn't take any structure, any like bureaucracy, any paperwork, any digital signals to be sent from here to there, but or like a beehive or something like that. Or I've heard that like trees form networks with their roots, right, and communicate like that, or that like fungi, how do you say, like mushrooms and mycelium, and that there's a whole network like in the forest and in the ground, that resembles those kinds of structures. And perhaps that's how some of the life forms on this planet express exactly this idea of being in perfect synchronicity with each other, um, in perfect flow with each other. And perhaps that would look, there would be some way that humans would express that. Whether technology, in the sense that we know it today, would be part of it or not, I don't know. Yeah, but this is not where we are right now. People are oftentimes very far away from being so in tune with themselves, including myself. And this world seems to have already developed structures and everything, so it's more like or less like a from scratch exercise where we can just forget that there is already structure in this world, or like come in fresh and just create from scratch new structures. But it's more like, or maybe I don't know. I wanted to say it's more like transforming existing structures. But does that have to be done? Or can we just... I guess just starting to create new structures is also a form of transformation, or a form of... Yeah, however we get there, but what matters is the end result, or like the vision, and how it feels. So just creating however this thing needs to feel, however this thing would feel. I've never actually thought about that, or felt into that. How would that feel if we had something close to, or like with the same like essential vibration or frequency of this idea that I talked about, where we're just synchronistically fully in the flow, going wherever we are needed, wherever there's something for us to grow, and for the situation there, for the people there, for the structures there that they need to be able to evolve and accomplish something, and joyfully come together and create things, co-create things, and go exactly where you need to go. I think this is one of the main components, no? Like, what if we had like one global organization, so to speak, and it's like connected everywhere. It's like you can just go anywhere within that. Like, you don't have to how do you say, you don't have to like break up with your current employer. You don't have to get a new contract or something. There's no paperwork involved anywhere, but you can just... And you have like feelers in some way, like you get information about perhaps where you could go, and you are known, and like certain people, I guess, and structures around you, so you can both have a sense of where you need to direct yourself, and you can also relay information to others about where they might be needed, because you have a sense of, you have a feeling of who they are and what they represent. And so things could just flow in a network, and that would be connected to, I don't know, like all the major companies. Maybe I'm just trying to come up with what this might look like and might feel like connected to all the major companies, and you can just go there and interact and help and co-create, and then but be very dynamic, right? Not having to then stick to any kind of, I don't know, predetermined time frames or roles or descriptions or something, but just coming together, like going there and then being there and really being present, and really participating in whatever is being created there, and then, I don't know, pulling in additional resources and bringing all of yourself, transforming the whole co-creation, transforming yourself, learning, growing, and all of that, but being able to flexibly move around on this like mycelium network, so to speak, like full of connectivity all around the globe, so to speak. Something like that. I mean, effectively, this is what I'm missing in my work life. That I'm just sitting here in isolation, and I have these, some of them, amazing skills and abilities. Just many things that I do so well and so naturally, and that are so valuable when they like slot in or arrive in a spot where it's just right, where this is actually needed at the moment. And I've had experiences of that, but like it could be like that all the time, because right now I'm bored. I'm underutilized dramatically. I'm bored and I get sidetracked. I just go off and do something else, like turn off my brain, turn off my system, with various things that you could, if you wanted to, you could call them drugs. We have many of them, legal and illegal. Where my experience is that like my system turns off or needs to be turned off when it's not, fully utilized in this fashion where I truly what I am, not some kind of description that I can match onto myself, and then I can go there and act as if, and then maybe perhaps I will also find a space that's right for me in a sense, but then it's going to morph, it's going to change, and then I'll be stuck there, stuff like that, right? But if I had this like network where I can freely move between organizations, situations, projects, teams, and just be myself, bring my full self to that, and co-create together various things that I'm interested in, the others are interested in. Yeah, I feel like that's how it should be. There should be no barriers between organizations. No, and I mean, yeah, what's happening today is that most companies have, a lot of stuff in their contracts, what you're supposed to do, what you're not allowed to do, like what knowledge you are not allowed to take out of the company, like NDAs and non-competes, and like a lot of that is just fear-based, right? What if you start creating companies that all are linked together, that are all interlinked with each other, where there is a clear designation up front that we're going to work together. Like if we're going to create a channel between ourselves and between other like nodes, so to speak, other companies, and we're going to stay in touch, and we're going to like exchange resources, and we'll also allow members of our organizations to move around on this network freely. And I don't know what that might look like, but I mean, I can already see some parallels to things like Y Combinator, the startup, the investment company, and who are doing a lot of work to bring people together in this way. But I guess they and perhaps other like accelerators, and I guess universities are to some degree also such an environment where people at least get together in like snapshots regularly, or like in a certain period of time, but then and I mean there are alumni networks and stuff like that, but it's still, and I mean those are, I guess, like connections and impulses and information travels along those lines, but people are not free to move along those lines without some level of upheaval and some level of just boilerplate, and that's a programming term, I don't know if that translates to the normal world, like ceremony, or paperwork and bureaucracy and everything. You can't just and maybe you don't want to quit working on this thing or being focused on this thing, but the contracts and everything are such that once you stop every day being there from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, or even remotely or something, if you're not tuned in, focused in, logged into whatever this thing is, then you cannot any longer be part of this organization, right? so to speak. And this should be broken up. What if you create companies that from the beginning say, we are part of this network, we are part of this, we have these connections, these channels that are always open there, not only for information, so information can flow freely, at least some types of information, some types of information, like for example user information, like we make a product and we have users, like the information from these users that they give to this particular organization, this stays within the organization, right? But other information such as how do we do this, like how do we solve this problem, and what knowledge have we gained, and how can we like everything that makes you grow as the individuals and the organizations and everything, that should be able to be transferred, like knowledge, I guess is a better term for that then. Yeah, if you could start creating companies that are by default linked to each other, and I guess so perhaps you would just need some kind of accounting system, like if as long as we still need to pay people and pay each other, so you just keep track of, so this person who's focused on this organization from this point in time until this point in time, and this much attention on it, and then as they move on you just keep track, and whoever is currently benefiting from their wherever they work, this is how they get paid in the end. But it's all, they don't have to establish any kind of new contract or something, but it's you're free to move around between these nodes in this graph, in this network, something like that. I mean, that would be great, because effectively, like if I had that in my life, I mean, I imagine, that there would be places where these people come together, could even just be, virtually, just online, and talk about the problems that they have at the moment, whatever they need to solve, whatever they're thinking about. And then, for example, I would participate in such a space, where actual information is shared, where it's not you have to bullshit, you have to tell, you can say, I don't know, like 5% truth, actual truth, or 10%, and then the rest you just have to dilute that really interesting and important and essential information with so much other stuff that nobody, you don't want to, like, this is just bullshit. But if there's a space where there's full trust between everyone, and you just talk about, you just exchange about, you trying to solve problems together, right? Working on solutions together, co-creating together, I could just go there, right? And I could just maybe like sign up for this organization, maybe as long as I don't work on anything specific, perhaps I don't get paid, or if I just participate in some, solutioning, or thinking together actually about solutions, like some kind of workshop maybe, that's free to join, but maybe I could get paid a little bit, and then I find something that I'm really interested in, and naturally conversations develop, and then whoop, suddenly I would just be working there, and I would not have to move in some ways. I don't have to make new contracts. I don't have to like be put in some kind of rigid box or something, but it's really just based on, hey, we want to solve something together. We have shared vision, at least partially shared, really in alignment, and then we just work on that together. And then once you feel done here or complete here, or if it's not entirely the right thing, and both parties, they can feel that if they're present, and then it doesn't serve anyone if you stick around longer than what feels right? It doesn't actually ever lead to the optimal result. So if there was something like that, like I would just be participating in these, co-creating, thinking together things, and conversations would develop, and suddenly I would feel like, oh yeah, I need to go there. I can join them for a little bit, and I can help with that, because it's it's easy, it's natural to me, it's something I can bring a lot of value in, and then I would work there, and then be done there, and then just move freely along this network of opportunities, and problems and solutions and co-creation. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. To me, that would feel natural. And I mean, naturally, there would be people like champions of any one cause. Like, I don't know, let's say Elon, for example, he's still super passionate about uh, on properly transitioning the whole world to electric propulsion, basically, we could say, um, in general, sustainable energy. So a person like that, or like Steve Jobs was just passionate and super into what he wanted to do at Apple, right? He was just like a person like that. There are different people. Some people are that they're just the champions of a particular cause, of a particular mission or vision, broad or big vision, and they're going to stay there. They're going to be sticking around. They're going to be, carrying that particular flag, and so there would still be like a stability around, ideas, or just like sites where people come there and work together on this thing, or this set of, problems and solutions and visions and everything. But there are so many of us who would also just naturally just move around, right? Learn something here and create something here and improve something here, and then move here and do the same thing there, and then move here, and then, circle back around suddenly with a much improved perspective, because they've learned here and there and there, um, things like that. So there could be a healthy mix of these, really more grounded, like the roots of a, project, or of a endeavor, people who represent these roots and the trunk of the tree, and it's giving shade, and there's an ecosystem developing around that, massive, I don't know, like tree, for example. And then there are also these moving elements, like the birds, right, the animals. And some of us are like, for a project, some of us are trees. They don't move very much, and they're just there, and they grow and grow and grow over time and can become massive. And then there's other beings that are moving around, spreading the seeds, um, and yeah, accomplishing all kinds of things inside an ecosystem. And if everyone is forced to be some version of a tree because, it's forbidden to move for whatever reason, that's just stupid. I mean, what kind of ecosystem would we have? Not a very strong one, not very resilient, right? That's part of what makes it so resilient. There's different kinds of structures, different kinds of natural structures that emanate from, in this case, the people, the humans being exactly who they want to be, exactly who they are, exactly what's, expressing exactly what's inside of them. And some of them will be more stationary, some of them are going to move around more slowly, some faster, some are going to be just zipping back and forth, and representing different kinds of, natural structures within the ecosystem that can then develop in a fully healthy way. Yeah, yeah, that would be amazing. I need that. Can someone please, ideally, point me to something like this that already exists? That would be great. Um, yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm complete. That was it. That was what I wanted to get out. Cool. So yeah, perhaps I'm just missing like the forest for the trees, and this thing kind of exists already. And I mean, there's probably some kinds of versions of that exist, maybe. Um, so if there is something like that, please let me know, because I need something like that. Otherwise, I'm just withering away here. Um, I'm just a lonely little, I don't know what I am, some kind of bird or a fox or some kind of eagle or something, um, without, the ecosystems without the trees and the other animals and plants and everything. Just not a lot of fun at the moment without that. Really looking for that. Yeah, so that's it. I'm complete. Thanks for listening.